Hello guys, I am sure you do understand that these negotiations in Istanbul are totally fake. And their only reason is to help, unfortunately, both Putin and Trump. They can help Putin to pretend that he is prepared to negotiate and thus prevent the European leaders, the White House, from imposing more sanctions on the Kremlin. And they will use this time to keep destroying Ukraine. Today I woke up to the sound of the Russian drones behind my windows in the Ukrainian city that is considered semi-safe. And these negotiations also give Trump an alibi. And I'm sure he always wanted to support Putin, and now he will say to the coalition of the willing that, look, finally Ukraine and Russia have negotiated something in Istanbul. That is totally fake, and everyone in Ukraine, and I hope in the European Union, and also good Americans and people literally in every corner of the world understand that. Because first of all, the people that the Kremlin sends to these negotiations do not decide anything at all. There is no Putin, there is no Lavrov, there is no anyone who at least can comment something openly for the Russian media or for the Kremlin goblin himself. Ukraine agreed on a ceasefire, on a 30-day ceasefire back in March, and Ukraine is a country that was attacked. So please compare these attitudes and finally understand that all these symptoms, Russia's new conscription, Russia constructing tank factories in the Ural Mountains, and Russia inviting Xi Jinping to operate in Moscow, these are not just accidents. This is a strategy to continue fighting against the democratic world. And the only working peace plan is to defeat and demilitarize Russia. Here in Ukraine, we know that. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the collapse of the Russian Federation, subscribe. I am sure we will discuss that on the channel sometime soon. And in this video, let's start with these delegations of Russia and Ukraine to Istanbul. What is funny that Putin was the one to offer these direct talks in Istanbul and then the one to reject his own offer, which demonstrates he does not want any peace. His task is to postpone ceasefire negotiations, to create this smoke screen, and to help Donald Trump protect Russia from the collapsing. The Kremlin delegation is not real. These are people not known to me personally, for example, and I am a very much involved person. So these are people who do not have real voices, who cannot provide advice, who cannot decide anything. Ukraine was prepared to come with the president, Zelensky, and even Trump at a certain moment in time considered visiting. I am sure the intelligence warned him that Putin will not show up, and now he pretends like, I didn't plan. But there are so many proposals given by Rubio, given by Trump himself, that Putin openly rejected and thus humiliated the so-called great deal maker. First of all, a ceasefire. It was first offered by the United States, honestly, with no reason for that, with no real context for that. But Ukraine, a country that is a victim, a country that was attacked, agreed on a ceasefire still in March. And now we are in the middle of May and nothing. So Putin rejected his own offer, Putin rejected Trump's offer, and Trump will pretend that it goes according to the plan. Now he says he can come to Istanbul on Friday, but there is no real reason. What makes me angry is that American media that now follow Trump's strategy will describe it as a victory. I mean, when people who decide nothing come to Istanbul from Russia and demand Ukraine to capitulate. And here I want to quote Darth Putin on X, who said, like, I want Ukraine to capitulate, but I control like less of Ukraine and less of Russia. than in 2022. That is the reality. Right now, the Kremlin controls less of the Ukrainian territory than it was at the start of that war in 2022. And most importantly, right now, Russia controls less of the Russian territory than it did back in 2022. Subscribe and like and share, because this is good. This is a sign Russia can and will be defeated. So those talks in Istanbul were planned as a capitulation of Ukraine. But during these 3 years, we've grown stronger, and we all know if Ukraine falls, Russia will continue destroying the democratic world. Zelensky decided to outsmart the people. It's not difficult in this case. So he traveled to Turkey to meet with Erdogan in Ankara, which is the capital of Turkey. And if there is no meeting with Putin, if there is no meeting with Trump, Zelensky has a productive meeting with Erdogan, who supports a ceasefire. Right now, everyone but Russia supports a 30-day ceasefire, including China, which recently commented on that. By the way, China may be the first country to betray Russia when they sense the collapse of the Russian economy, and that is coming, especially with this energy crisis and all of that. Another very good move from my ordinary Ukrainian perspective is a new ambassador that Ukraine has just assigned to Turkey. That is a very famous in Ukraine person. He is Crimean Tatar, and he was in the Russian captivity. He was released as a prisoner of war only in June 2024. It is a very important move because, like Crimean Tatars, they are very close to the Turkish cultural heritage too. And that is a demonstration of how open we are and how comfortable it is for different nations and cultures to live in one motherland, that is Ukraine, because Ukraine is a motherland for Crimean Tatars. And Crimea is a beautiful place that must be a resort. By the way, that was a Crimean Tatar restaurant that Starmer visited in Kyiv, Musafir. There are many of them. They are super comfortable, and they are cheap and at the same time of high quality. So please share this message. These negotiations are fake. Their only reason is to create a smoke screen so that Putin can pretend he is negotiating. Do not impose new sanctions. Do not paralyze the already collapsing Russian economy. Trump will catch this message, but in reality, they don't want to negotiate. They don't want peace. They continue building tank factories somewhere in the Urals. They plan to conscript 160,000 new soldiers, and they already sent them in those meat assaults. But through these really long negotiations, they create opportunities, like to continue targeting Ukraine unpunished and at the same time not get punishment for that. That is very, very wrong. Don't let them trick you. I know in Ukraine we totally understand the situation. We are open for peace, but this peace must be just. And let's be realistic. It is only possible after the defeat and demilitarization of Russia. I'm wearing Vashanka because today is Ukrainian Vashanka Day, and that is so symbolic that Russia fakes these negotiations. In my semi-safe city, drones are flying behind the windows, air defense working. That's how I woke up today. And early in the morning, people go to work after the sounds of explosions, air defense working, also heads were downed. Nothing suffered. So that's a victory too. But all of these people went to offices and schools wearing Vashankas, protecting our cultural heritage, standing for this beautiful tradition. You cannot defeat Ukraine. Just help us defeat Russia. That is a natural process empires must collapse in the 21st century. Also, I'm heading today to Lviv Media Forum, and let me know in the comments below, maybe there are some questions you'd like me to tell you. And I also plan to interview some very good people there. So stay tuned and join me on X, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, on Threads and Discord. Remember to join me this Sunday, not Saturday, but Sunday for live on the channel. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, and check our merch shop because of Vashanka Day. We have discount, we have sale for the collection of heritage t-shirts and other items. And all of them work really well as reminders, conversation starters about Ukraine, but they are simply beautiful. Thank you for being friends of mine, friends of Ukraine. United we stand. Slava Ukraini!